Welcome back to Comic Book History, episode number 38. This one I'm doing on a particular character that I've talked about his trades mostly, but I've never delved into this full history of this particular character. What character is this? Frank Castle, aka the frickin' Punisher. Yep. First appearance back in Amazing Spider-Man 129. Yes, I've read this particular comic book. Created by Jerry Conway and John Romita Sr. Yeah, I should put Senior because I initially thought this was Junior for some time because I saw the name John Romita. Yeah, it's quite confusing. Now, of the three people who created this particular guy, Conway is the only one still left alive because John Romita Sr. passed away, I think it was back in, I'm looking up right now. He passed away in, actually he's still very much alive. Yeah, Romita Sr. is still very much alive. Though I think he's retired from doing comic books. Yeah, I think he's retired. But Ross Audru, yeah. There's another guy, Ross Audru, who's also credited for creating the Punisher. You know, generally it's just Jerry Conway and John Romita Sr. Yeah, he passed away in 1983. Yep. Now, initially, when he first showed up, he showed up as a partner for frequent recurring Spider-Man villain, the Jackal, aka Miles Warren. As a matter of fact, believe it or not, this is also the Jackal's first appearance as well, who, after this particular issue, became an integral part of the Spider-Man history books. He pretty much became sort of a recurring villain in Jerry Conway's run for Spider-Man, up until the end of his run. Yep, once he left, no one touched Jackal for years until the controversial Clone Saga of the 1990s. Yep, after the Punisher's first appearance, which he doesn't do very much in Spider-Man, he doesn't either interact with him that much in the issue. He only interacts with him twice the whole issue. And yeah, in case you're wondering, his first, like generally, people think of him like wearing like the skull shirt and the black trench coat. That was something that the 2004 film started. His initial first appearance, him like an all full body suit, which is lined with freaking Kevlar, and him carrying a machine gun, having a skull in the suit. Yeah, this was initial attire. This is initial Punisher attire for most of his entire career up until 2004. This was initial look. It wasn't until 2004 film they finally updated this damn look. After his initial appearance back in Amazing Spider-Man 129, he later returned for a two-part storyline, which had a debut of another reoccurring Spider-Man villain who didn't really appear very much until he got killed off a decade later, exactly 100 issues after his debut, and that was the Tarantula. Yes, the frickin' Tarantula. Yeah, people may have heard of the Jackal, mainly because Linkara brought him up frequently in the Clone Saga reviews, and plus also he did make a return for Spiral Island and Clone Conspiracy, but not the Tarantula. Nope, he's not that very well-known character outside the comics. Why? Because half the time he was not that interesting of a villain to read about. Because here's the thing, the guy very rarely appeared. Like, after his initial first appearance, he didn't return until, the start of Peter Parker The Spectacular Spider-Man, where he appeared for a few issues and didn't do very much. He had a brief account with Kraven the Hunter. Yeah, and also, Punisher, who returned to the storyline, this particular story was also the debut of the infamous Battle Wagon. Yes, Punisher's van he's known for having over the years. So, yeah, thank you, Conway, for creating that, too. So, Conway not created the Punisher, he also created his signature vehicle. Though this was the first of several, but he's the one who initially started it. The whole thing, other stuff, basically, Punisher's known for doing over the years. Some of the stuff Conway did establish himself, like his backstory was later established, an issue of Marvel Preview, of all things. Yep. Yeah, it was pretty much an issue of Marvel Premiere. Yeah, where it details his backstory. Yep, and now here's kind of the thing, that this particular origin story did have a connection to Punisher Purgatory. Though Christopher Golden, the writer of the book, does have a retcon that he was a demon. Which, yeah. Luckily enough that once Joker started probably saw this, yeah, this is stupid, we're ignoring it, and we're going to pretend it never happened. Well, they did collect that particular miniseries recently as part of the Marvel Knights collection for Punisher. Yep. So after these handful of appearances, he later appeared for a few issues of Daredevil of all things. Yeah, he even guest starred an issue of Captain America And then eventually he got his own series. Yes, done by Stephen Grant and Mike Zeck. Yeah, I've read this particular thing. I've talked to Mike Zeck about this particular book because I got a chance to meet at Comic Con. He loved working with the guy. Yeah, he loved working with the guy. And Stephen Grant, in my opinion, is one of those writers that's very underrated. I mean, not many people know about this guy. And luckily enough, this particular book was basically, there's a sequel to this particular miniseries done with the final arc of Punisher Warzone, which came about a decade later. This storyline, believe it or not, was actually set up, this whole miniseries was set up thanks to a arc from Peter Parker's Second Spider-Man, which I believe Bill Mantlo wrote the story, I think. Yeah, because the book went through multiple different writers over the course of like over 20 years. Yes, there was a 3-part story that started from issue, I think it was like 91, wrapped up issue 93, even featured a guest star appearance by Cloak and Dagger. I think, that after this initial 3-part appearance, the character was moved to his little mini-series, where he spent 1 issue in prison. Also, noteworthy, I forgot to mention this, he did appear for a few issues after issue 35 of Amazing Spider-Man. He returned for issue, I think it was like 186, where Spider-Man teamed with Nightcrawler and Punisher to take on the debut of Jigsaw, who was created by the now late Leen Wein. Yeah, Jigsaw is not a creation of Jerry Conway, that's a creation of a different writer, despite the fact that Jigsaw is a frequent recurring villain of the Punisher since the character's debut. Only like a few times he's never fought. Sometimes he's fought Spider-Man. Yeah, the character later returned an unrelated issue, which I'm surprised this issue was never collected in that Punisher book, despite featuring Jigsaw. Yeah, and Jigsaw initial appearance is not like how he's generally depicted. Usually, this book, when we see him in the first book, he's this big, huge, bulky guy who's got scars over his face, which apparently the Punisher did that to him. Yeah, how he got that way? Punisher shoved his head through a frickin' window. That's not a joke. That seriously happened to him. Yeah, and also he had like a neck brace. Eventually, this character, after this appearance and an issue of Amazing Spider-Man, which did not feature Punisher, he later returned for the first issue of the second volume of the first volume of Punisher. He appeared for most of the miniseries. He's probably remember the first issue where he apparently was staying in the prison he was in. Somehow, even though that initial storyline, which to this miniseries, he was going to a mental institution, but no, he went to an actual prison. He's there for like 1 issue, and then he gets out and meets up with a group known as the Trust, who try to help him out in his war on crime. At the end of the miniseries, he takes it the Trust because he doesn't like it very much. Also, in the second issue, there's this woman named Angela. She was a nurse, and she, in her first appearance, actually has sex with the Punisher. By the way, the guy who trusts does not find about this for years. Yeah, he had no idea that. I think this woman was supposed to be his girlfriend or wife. He never found out until a journal that was published years later that the Punisher had slept with her. Yep. And at the end of the series, Punisher kind of killed her by having her trapped in a vehicle and refused to save her. Yep, and he tried to end his war and crime with miniseries, but it's a really good miniseries. Also, this series is also infamous for having a misprint. Yes. There's an error published, I believe, on issue 4. I think it was issue 3, where 4 was like for issue 4, 4-issue miniseries, and of course issue 5. Despite the fact for issues 1 through 3 and 5, this was initially depicted as a miniseries. And because of the fact this particular series was so popular, the following year, we had ourselves an ongoing series, which lasted for 104 issues. And alongside of it, I kid you not, they had 7 annuals. There was also summer specials. Yeah, I'm not kidding about there's like 4 of these damn things. Back to school specials and holiday specials. No, I have no idea why that Marvel did this for. This book also was noteworthy for having a whole boatload of writers. Like, oh my gosh, the list of writers. I mean, one of the most noteworthy runs is Chuck Dixon. Yeah, he wrote a good majority of this damn book. Yeah, majority of this book was written by him, but some of the book was written by various people, and this book became so popular. Eventually, in the 90s, they gave him 2 spin-offs. First, it was Punisher War Journal, then Punisher War Zone. Also, I forgot that I should bring this up though. In between the first second volume, he did appear in a couple storylines. One, of course, was the Gang War storyline from Amazing Experiment. I believe this was done by it's not by Frank Miller. I think it was done by Khan. I don't remember who wrote the story. It's a really good storyline. He also appeared briefly in the critically acclaimed storyline Punisher Born Again, which I heard was loosely adapted for season 3 of Daredevil, which I haven't seen yet. And he also guest starred in this year's Spectacular Spider-Man, and that's really it. He didn't do very much between the volumes, but he initially moved over to Missing Spider-Man briefly for this one story. Then he eventually did his own thing. Now, throughout this whole book, the book had some interesting storytelling. This book was all worth introducing the Punisher's dog Max, which this character did pop up in a couple episodes of Daredevil season 2. Yep, it did. And, well, why did the book end after 104 issues? Well, from what I've read, it was canceled due to low sales. Yep. So, oh yeah, in case you're wondering, did the Punisher books ever have crossovers? They had 2. Only 2 published. And these 2 were, first it was Suicide Run. This particular storyline was meant to celebrate the 10th anniversary of the Punisher ongoing series. The other was Punisher Countdown, which ended the particular franchise. And then he popped up for a couple issues of Amazing Spider-Man. He popped up for a few issues when he suffered through amnesia. And then thanks to Marvel's Edge imprint, published in the mid-90s, he eventually got in the ongoing series again, this time by John Ostrander. Very interesting run, had him join the Mob for a good spell. Then the book was ended due to low sales, and then they brought it back as the 4-issue miniseries, which was later referred to as Punisher Purgatory, done by, like I said, Christopher Golden. Christopher Golden, don't know who this guy is. He's known for being a frequent co-writer of Mike Mignola and Hellboy books. Yeah, as a matter of fact, he co-wrote an actual novel with one of his characters. I think it was Joe Golem. Yeah, Joe Golem. He wrote a book with him, and a book featuring puppets. Yeah, he's known to be a novelist, but he's frequently worked with Mike Mignola and the Hellboy franchise. So, because of the fact that the book itself was very mixedly received, the book was also drawn by Bernie Wrightstein. Yep, Bernie Wrightstein. The book itself was not popular, so 1 year later, we had the Garth Ennis book, the 12-issue maxi series, the storyline called Welcome Back Frank, which basically elements of this miniseries was integrated into the Punisher video game, which released in 2005, and the 2004 film. Yes, this particular storyline was also noteworthy of introduction of the Nucci family, the Russian, who in the Punisher film was played by Kevin Nash. That is not a joke. He seriously played him. Look it up. He basically shaved his beard he's known for having, cut his long hair he's also known for having, and dyed his hair blonde. I gotta say, he actually was a pretty damn good choice. I think he had no dialogue. He didn't even have his famous quotes he did in the series, yes. He only appeared for a couple issues, but he did return for the successor volume. Yep. Excuse me. This particular book also was an introduction of 3 characters who also appeared in the Punisher film. Yeah. It's interesting, though, this book had their own, let's say, supporting characters. Yes. In case you wondered, he did Punisher Volume 2 of supporting characters. About 2 or 3 of them. The most noteworthy one is frickin' Microchip, who was pretty much the regular supporting character throughout most of the entire era during Punisher's dominance in the early 90s. And eventually he got sour, Punisher later killed him, and of course the character was later brought back by Rick Remender of all people. Yeah, he resurrected the character. There's been a couple of characters who attempted to beat the Microchip, but they never lasted very long. Nope, they never did. And there were a few other copycat vigilante Punishers. Like, one was a guy who also assumed the identity of Hitman. There was the first of the 2 female Punishers. Yeah, the female Punisher actually appeared during the last couple of years of the Punisher Warzone series. Yeah, just basically not a Punisher book. It's a pretty good series. And the Warzone series basically was known for having the first few years drawn by John Romita Jr. He drew the series because, well, his father created the character, so he figured, though, why not? It's one of, 2 characters he's actually known for having a series where he actually works on it. The other, of course, he worked on Spider-Man. He also worked on Daredevil, which I don't think his father worked on Daredevil. No, but the Kingpin show up there. Yep. Yeah, and here are basically the neighbors basically introducing this particular storyline for Punisher Volume 4. I call it Volume 4 because I don't count Purgatory. You have Joan the Mouse, who's a woman who's implied to be in love with Frank Castle. Doesn't really go into place. And in case you're wondering, like there's a references in the Punisher video game that she actually bakes she bakes too many cookies. Yeah, there's reference to that because she's known for baking a lot of cookies for Punisher. Yeah, it was also very implied she had a thing for him, but it went nowhere. We also had Mr. Bappo, this overweight guy, this massively overweight guy who's constant recurring gag with him. He eats a whole box, like 20 boxes of pizza, and at one point, because he got so big, he had to get a new toilet. That's not a joke, he seriously did. And there's also Spacker Dave, a guy with freaking piercings on his face, who, toward the end of the miniseries, had all of them removed. Yep, he had all of them removed. And this particular storyline also introduced the character of Detective Soap, who actually appeared in the Punisher film. Yeah, he appeared in Punisher Warzone, which he was the head of the anti-Punisher task force, which apparently he and like one other person was involved with, a woman named Molly, who after this particular series was never seen again. Soap was seen in the succeeding volume. Yep, he came back. At the end of the series, he became the police commissioner when the Punisher basically gave him a bunch of evidence, implying that the commissioner was actually in bed with the mob. So he became commissioner, just like that. Though by the succeeding volume, thanks to blackmail, he got demoted back to detective. Molly, on the other hand, was revealed in the series to be a lesbian. Yep, and of course the common thing with these two, if you read the entire 12-issue Maxi series, is they love quoting Clint Eastwood movies together. Yeah, it is so freaking good. Yeah, it's one of the best things about this thing. And the thing was written by Garth Ennis, and the artwork is now done. It was done by now late Steve Dillon. Yeah, the book is freaking fantastic when it comes to this artwork. And eventually, because this book was so successful, the following year we had Punisher Volume 5, which was also done by Garth Ennis as well. Yeah, he actually did the next volume. Yep. But he had a few different artists. Tom Payer, Steve Dillon again. Though Garth Ennis wrote a good majority of it, there was a small portion he didn't write himself. Issue 7 was written by Steve Dillon, 8 was done by Ron Zimmerman, and 9 through 12 was done by Tom Payer. Yeah, it's particularly weird. Yeah, and how they collect this particular run is so bizarre. Like, apparently they skip some issues. Like, yeah, they're collected somewhat out of order. It's particularly very weird. Yep. And because this book was so successful, the book is noteworthy. And here's kind of the strange thing about this particular run. Yeah, when Marvel decided to give Punisher his own triple-digit numbering again, first time since the 90s, they, for some reason, ignored this volume as part of the numbering. Unknown why, it's particularly very bizarre. I've never heard Marvel explain why this particular run is ignored, but it is. This run was a bit mixed received. He even had a really awful two-parter where he had a guest appearance by freaking Wolverine take on a mini mobster who apparently kidnapped other mobsters and cut off their legs and had their feet attached to their freaking knees. Yeah, it was one of the most bizarre storylines I've seen depicted. Yeah, there was some interesting stuff here, and of course this book later led into the Punisher Volume 6 book, aka Punisher Max, which, fun fact, in the film American Sniper, the first issue is actually seen reread by, believe it or not, one of the characters in the film. Not the main character, who's Chris Kyle, played by Dominic Cooper, Bradley Cooper. Yeah, not him. Apparently one of his, let's say his squad mates, is a big Punisher fan. So he painted basically a Punisher skull on his frickin' tank. Yeah. And when I saw, like, hey, I know that cover. That's the first issue of Punisher. My only guess is the reason why they did it is because, well, because it was published at a period of time. Yeah, in case you're wondering how many writers this book had, the book lasted for 75 issues and an annual. Yep, it had 2 writers on it. One, of course, was Garth Ennis. A lot of elements of this particular run was integrated into the Punisher Warzone film, and of course, Daredevil Season 2. Yep. In case you're wondering, was anything integrated in the Punisher TV series? No, it wasn't. Yeah. And then Greg Hurwitz to go for the last year of the book, which the book was retitled to. Well, he only did a few issues in. We had Dwayne Schwartzky. I can't remember his name. Yeah, he basically took over for pretty much a few issues. Then we have Victor Gassler. Yeah. Who did the book and initially put all the issues in a collect and trade. But for some reason, I have no idea why this is. It took until the complete collection to collect issue 75. Yeah, I have no idea why in the world this was. As far as I know, there's no reason why we're going to collect before, but they did. Now, eventually, Punisher, during the course of this particular, toward the end of this particular one, he was restored to the Power Universe proper. Now, of course, in the Maxverse, Punisher aged in real time. And in case you're wondering, was there Max versions of various characters? Yes, there was a version of Jake's up here for one Storm who got killed off. The one character introduced this particular, let's just say this particular era, that was, as far as I can tell, the character has never included in the Marvel Comic Universe. Not that I can think of. And that's the character Barracuda. A character is known for being a big, bulky black guy with tattooed, with having rings say Mother Effer on it. I am not kidding about this. I mean, his depiction is simply holding a freaking huge machine gun in his hand. Yeah, he was around for a very brief period of time, and the Punisher killed him issue 50. This one was also noteworthy for Punisher having in their child. Yes, a daughter with a woman who's basically a member of the IRA. That's not a joke. The woman's name is Jenny. There was even this really weird storyline in the book, because I have a couple issues of it, where this woman was constantly abused by her husband, so apparently that basically had her take away her breast, and then eventually she killed some people, and then her last thing and then she actually died, and before she died, she decided to have sex with the Punisher. Just because. Yeah, it's particularly very weird. But it had some interesting ideas, but as far as I can tell, none of them was incorporated into the mainstream book. Heck, even Nick Fury was a recurring character in the book. Now, in case you're wondering, did this character ever return? Yes, it was later relaunched as The Punisher Max, done by Jason Aaron, done by Steve Dillon, which had him fight basically Max versions of various characters. It was one for Elektra, Vanessa Fisk, who out as a freaking lesbian during the later half of the series, who's, get this, her lesbian lover was Elektra. That's not a joke. It seriously was. There's even an issue where it depicted they make out, and then next thing you know, they're in bed together. Yep. Oh, and by the way, there's also a version of Richard Fisk in this series. He's a little kid. And the thing is, Vanessa hates her husband. Why? Because he allowed her son to get killed. That's simply the reason why. Also, various characters are shown to having sex with each other. I mean, the Kingpin himself is known for having sex with his wife, various other women. Heck, there's even one point he has sex with Elektra. Because it's Max book, why not show a bunch of nudity in the book? Yeah, and also, he did eventually die toward the end of the series. He got killed by the Punisher. And then he was cremated, and then what did Vanessa do with it? And then he was later... And what did Vanessa do? Did she scat him off top of his tower? Nope, she flushed him down the toilet. And then she was killed by Nick Fury. That's not a joke. Elektra, I think, was killed by the Punisher. Yeah. It's weird. Yeah. Now, eventually, he did return to the Pop Universe proper, thanks, of course, to Punisher Warzone Volume 2, done by Matt Fraction. Really good book. Over the course of the book's 25-issue run, I own the last 3-4, where you had a crossover with the always Secret Invasion of all things. Yeah, the book opened up with the arc tie-in to Civil War, where in the very first issue, what did he do? Okay, so he's spying on a child molester, and then the Stilt Man shows up. Apparently he's a former hero, reformed as a hero, and then the Punisher just takes a bazooka, fires at his freaking groin, blowing his legs off, and then he walks up to the stilt man, which he has no freaking stilts, shoots him in the head. He shoots various other characters in the storyline, kills Goldbug, he applied killed the Plunderer. Yeah, that was later retconned to be his representative. He also, believe it or not, fought the son of Kraven the Hunter during this run. Yeah, it's a really very odd run. And he had a microchip during this run. His name was Stuart Clarke. You're probably thinking, who the heck is Stuart Clarke? He was a character who was known as a villain known as Rampage from the Champions series. Yes, and he became a recurring character this run. Until the end of the run, he became another Jigsaw. Because why not? Of course, during the latter half of the run, Rick Remender came as a co-writer, and the book was launched simply as The Punisher, which lasted for 21 issues. Yes, 21 issues. Where in the very first issue, the Punisher went after Norman Osborn. That's not a joke. He tried to kill him until he was saved by frickin' Sentry. And then he decided to go after the Hood, who was an associate of Norman Osborn's Beck. He decided to resurrect a bunch of dead supervillains killed by the Scourge of the Underworld. Of course, some of whom by the end of the storyline, he did kill up some of them. One, of course, happened to be the character the Wrath, who was, believe it or not, I don't know, he's not a creation. I think he's a creation of Chris Claremont. I don't remember who created him. Yeah, he first created the Marvel Team, like 4-part story which involved Doctor Strange, Iron Man, and I think that was it. Yeah. And eventually, thanks to Dark Reign, the List, the Punisher, Daken got a chance to fight Daken, Wolverine's son, who decided to cut him up into tiny pieces. Yep, until he was found by frickin' Morbius, re-stitched up as a Frankenstein monster, rechristened Frankencastle, and he briefly working alongside the Legion of Monsters in the storyline. But by the end of it, he did give his sword normal thanks to a jewel he found in the final issue. Yeah, in case you're wondering, he did have one new villain pop up in the storyline, and that was Robert Hillsguard, who actually disappeared, has not been seen since then. Yep. After this particular storyline ended, he later next showed up in the pages of Punisher in the Blood, which is meant to be basically a conclusion to Rick Remender's run. It's a really good miniseries. He apparently kills off Jigsaw again at the end of the storyline. Yeah, and also during the course of Punisher Volume 7, he actually gets a new microchip named Henry, who was later revealed to be Jigsaw's frickin' son. Yes, this character also popped up. These two also popped up in a couple miniseries, a couple of period of time. They popped up in the Anti-Venom miniseries New Ways to Die and Deadpool Suicide Kings. Yep. Eventually, after Punisher found out he's son of Jigsaw, he just basically says, screw you, I don't want anything to do with you because I hate Jigsaw. Yeah, despite the fact that they have Punisher attempt to kill Jigsaw many times, and yet he keeps coming back. At the end of his miniseries, he falls into a burning building. Jigsaw later shows up alive. No explanation of how the heck he's alive. Also, they brought back Lady Gorgon in the storyline. Yes, a character who popped up briefly during the Frankencastle series, who disguised herself as Maria Castle. Oh yeah, and also, this was something really weird. She attempted to have a 3-way with the two Jigsaws. That's not a joke. She seriously did. Now, apparently, and she was also a burn victim. Apparently, the Punisher did this to her at some point. I don't remember when, but he did. And she gets killed. Stuart Clarke dies. He gets killed by frickin' the original Jigsaw. And of course, his Jigsaw's son Henry drops him in the burning warehouse. Somehow he survives. Yeah, he drops him from a frickin' rooftop, right through the skylight. Yeah, as for how he survives, Bendis never explained it. Eventually, right after this series wrapped up, he later showed up in Shadowland, of all things. Yes, frickin' Shadowland, where he decided to blow a hole in the side of Shadowland building Rescue the Heroes. His appearance is so surprising. It's like, what? The Punisher's here? Oh, crap. My guess is Diggle threw him in, who was the writer of that particular miniseries. because Punisher's had frequent association with Daredevil. He did do some stuff in the book. Oddly enough, he didn't have a tie-in to that particular event, and yet he had a big role in it, and yet he didn't have a tie-in. Not even a one-shot. Spider-Man did, but not freaking Punisher. Yep, after this particular thing, he did have one miniseries published this period of time. And that was, Punisher, The Trial of the Punisher. Yeah, this was a two-part miniseries where you have a trial, which is basically loose inspiration from the Punisher Netflix series, and it's just a Thor miniseries. My only guess is Marvel did it because this was between volumes. But what did he do besides this? He later popped up in the pages of Thunderbolts, which first he basically was brought in by Charles Soule, though he later got another ongoing series where during the course of Soule's run he did something interesting and different with him. Aside from him joining a group, which by the way this was the second time joining a group, he joined Code Red. He did something quite unusual. He had the Punisher form a relationship with Elektra. Yes. A relationship that lasted up until toward the volume's end. Yep, eventually he did get an ongoing series against by Nathan Emerson. Now, did he go back to business basically of the supervillains? Nope, he wouldn't do that until Matthew Rosenberg took over the book. Yep. What Emerson? Well, he did fight one villain this whole one that was a recurring Marvel villain. He fought Electro for an issue. Yeah, I'm not kidding, for a couple issues. Yeah, and also they brought back. Also, before I get to this particular run, I kind of forgot. There's one I forgot to mention. It was run by Greg Rucka. Yes. Yeah, this came like before Thunderbolts run. It only lasted about 16 issues, but it was later wrapped up in a miniseries reviving Punisher Warzone. It was the third volume publishing it. Yeah, the second volume, which is a follow-up to Welcome Back Frank, done by a different writer. I think it's somebody Darwin Short, I think it was. Yeah. In the case of this particular run, Punisher just basically back to regular business as usual, and he also comes across this elite group, which he basically takes out. Yeah, and also he teams up with a new female Punisher named Rachel Cole Ives. Yes, because, you see, she actually is a widow. Her husband was killed on her wedding day during the wedding reception, yet they keep her as Rachel Cole. Even though her last name is Ives, she legally did take the last name, and she has to frequently correct him about that. Yeah, Punisher trains her to become an actual, Punisher, female Punisher, who later pops up in a later run. And then Rucka did something really weird, and I think this is probably one of the smartest decisions he did with during this run. He had the Punisher fight the Red Vulture of all people. Yes, the Red Vulture. He had a mid-air battle with him until he stabbed him in the frickin' chest. Punisher survived a gripping building. And what happened to Vulture? Fell down 50 stories. Splat right on the ground. And he was found by the cops for our next issue. Yeah, and also for some strange reason, I'm not sure why this is. Apparently Rucka thought it was a good idea to have Nora Winters. Yeah, she was a character from the Amazing Spider-Man books who was a creation of Dan Slott of all people. Implying this character's supposed to be Marvel's version of Lois Lane. It doesn't really go into place. Yeah, she's dating. We also have Carly Cooper shows up in here dating a forensic scientist. Well, at least dating one of the cops in the series. And then eventually leads into the miniseries Punisher Warzone, which apparently Avengers catch him and they put him in a jail cell, but he gets out anyways with no explanation. The Amazon run was really good. I actually thoroughly enjoyed it. It only lasted about 20 issues before they canceled because of Secret Wars. Yep. What did he do in the storyline? Well, he worked with a female cop, and he took out a bunch of drug dealers. Yep, that's what he did in this whole storyline. But it was still a well-written book. I thoroughly enjoyed reading it when it came out. After the events of Secret Wars, he got a new book. Took a little while, but he eventually did. This time by Becky Cohen. Yes, Becky Cohen. A female writer writing The Punisher. When the book started, it was done by Steve Dillon. And then he died when he was working on issue 7. And he had new artists throughout the rest of the run. The run itself didn't last very long. It lasted about 14 issues. He only had like one new villain in this run called Face, who apparently had this thing for whenever he killed his victims, he took their faces. Yeah. We have this DEA agent shows up in this particular series. My only guess is some of the stuff that they used in this particular miniseries, this particular run, was loosely inspired from Punisher Season 1, where a federal agent basically goes at the Punisher. Yep. That's simply the way it is when it comes to that. Yep. And then like toward the end of the run, he had like a Law and Order like gun PSA whatever. And then we had Matthew Rosenberg to go with the book, who had a really good run with the book. Yeah, with his run, it followed what happened in the events of Secret Empire, which is probably the first event he's involved with since Original Sin. His Original Sin is so freaking hilarious. I love his involvement in there. Like, for the first time ever, and this is the only time this has happened, Punisher meets Rocket Raccoon. And he says to him, "Nice gun, Skullboy. Mine's bigger." I thought that was so funny. Yeah, this book was done by Jason Aaron, and I don't remember who the artist was, but yeah, this book was just so good. I freaking loved this particular run. Yeah, this particular storyline is just so damn good, and it came out only 5 years ago. Yeah. The odd thing is, some of the stuff that happened in this particular event is still being felt. Not very much, unlike the following event, Access of all things. Yeah, the artwork was done by, well, I don't remember who did the artwork, but yeah, it's the artist who did work with Jason Aaron. Yeah, this is a guy known for doing like thematic style artwork, but the book was really, really good. Yeah, basically the whole point of this was set up a miniseries with Doctor Strange. Yeah, he was brought in to investigate a series of murders happening at Earth's core. Yeah, the whole thing with this was that apparently Nick Fury was responsible for killing all these creatures. Yeah. Punisher's involvement in this particular series is so hilarious and pure fun. It's like Jason Aaron really probably either one was forced to include the Punisher, probably because of his upcoming appearance on Daredevil Season 2, or he probably really wanted the Punisher. As far as I know, this is the only time he's ever written the Punisher, because actually second time he's written the Punisher because, well, he did write the Punisher Max series, but thinking, okay, maybe he wants to write 616 Punisher. I'm not sure. Yep. And with Rosenberg, now what happened in Secret Empire, Punisher joined Hydra for some strange reason. It was never thoroughly explained. There's not even a tie-in to this particular event that explains why Punisher joined Hydra. Yeah, him joining Hydra was one of the most bizarre things that happened in Secret Empire. And one of the many things the book never bothered to explain, just work with Hydra for some strange reason. And after the event wrapped up, he became a, let's just say, basically put on the War Machine armor for about 10 issues, and then went back to killing off suit villains, fought Thunderbolts, and of course, Rosenberg ended his run recently after just 2 years. It was a very brief run. Though apparently we're getting relaunched as Punisher Sylvia for some reason. I'm not sure why, but yeah. Not much else to say Punisher. He's a really good character. And he's had a few, let's just say, other series. Yeah, aside from his ongoing series, and of course, especially a crossover with Captain America, Wolverine, Spider-Man. There's the War miniseries, which is kind of the first appearance, the Max version of Punisher. There's Platoon, War of Realms, there's Kill Crew. There's many one-shots of Punisher, like, not as many as like Spider-Man or X-Men, but he's got a good number of them. Crossovers. Well, into comic ones, he only had one. He had one with Batman, where they team up to take on Jigsaw, which apparently this book was referenced in an issue of the Batman book. This was the Azrael Batman. And you cross it with Archie of all people. You cross Batman twice. Yeah. Even Eminem and Witchblade and Painkiller Jane. Yep. Yeah, but not much else to say about the Punisher. I'll probably talk about the Cosmic Punisher in another video, but yeah, as the main Punisher, great character, okay? Yeah, so that's it for this particular review. I have no other videos planned for today anyways. Stay tuned for tomorrow for my reviews of One Piece, Boruto, and Case Ghost. I did not have time to do one today, okay? But see you next video. Bye.